Most people have a number in their head, a number that feels like the real beginning, the amount where saving finally starts to feel worth it. $10,000, $20,000, enough to matter. And because that number feels far away, the saving never starts. There is always something more urgent, always something that needs the money first. The month ends, the account resets, the number stays exactly where it was. But there is a different number, a smaller one that most financial conversations skip past entirely, not because it is unimportant, but because it does not look impressive enough to mention. $1,000. That is the number. And what happens on the other side of that number is something almost nobody prepares people for. Because the first $1,000 saved does not just sit in an account, it changes the account of the person who saved it. Not the balance, the person. The way they make decisions, the way they handle pressure, the way money feels. Something shifts when that number exists for the first time. And understanding why that shift happens and why most people never reach it is where this story begins.
Andre earned enough. That is the honest description of his situation. Not struggling, not comfortable, just enough. He paid his bills, he covered his rent, he handled what needed handling each month. And at the end of most months, the account was close to zero. Not because Andre spent recklessly, because everything that came in had somewhere to go. Andre had thought about saving before, had told himself more than once that this would be the month he put something away. The target was always vague. Save more, build something, get ahead. These are intentions, not plans, and intentions without a specific number attached to them tend to dissolve quietly under the pressure of ordinary life. The transmission needed work. The savings stopped. A family trip came up. The savings stopped. A phone screen cracked. The savings stopped. Every time something unexpected arrived, there was nothing underneath to absorb it. And so the unexpected thing took the money that was supposed to go somewhere else, and the account reset again. Andre was not failing at saving because he lacked discipline. Andre was failing at saving because he'd never given the saving a clear enough target to survive contact with real life. $1,000 with no plan is an amount that disappears. $1,000 with a name, a specific destination, a specific purpose, is an amount that stays. Andre did not know that yet. Most people do not know it until something teaches them. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the savings threshold. The idea is simple. Saving does not feel real until there's enough saved to feel like something. Below a certain amount, the account balance feels temporary, like it could disappear in a single bad week, which means it almost always does. This is not a failure of character. It is a function of how the brain processes risk. When the buffer is thin, every financial decision carries a higher emotional weight. A small expense feels threatening. A minor surprise feels like a crisis. And when every decision feels threatening, the brain defaults to spending, because spending feels like control. Saving in that state feels like putting something precious somewhere it might not survive. But something changes when the buffer reaches a number that feels survivable. Not comfortable, not wealthy, just survivable. $1,000 is survivable. It covers most car repairs, it covers most medical surprises, it covers most of the things that usually drain an account to zero. And when those things arrive, and they always arrive, the account does not reset. It dips, and then it recovers. That experience of something going wrong and the account surviving it rewires something in the person holding it. It tells them something that no financial advice ever quite manages to say directly, that they can handle this, that the next bad week is not a catastrophe, it's just a week. And that shift in emotional relationship with money is worth more than any interest rate.
Terrence looked, from the outside, like someone who had already figured money out. Good job, nice apartment, the kind of wardrobe that signals things are going well. Terrence was not pretending. The income was real. What was missing was entirely invisible from the outside. When Terrence's boiler broke in January, the repair cost $1,100. Terrence put it on a credit card. Not because he was careless, because there was no buffer. The income had been real for years. The buffer had never been built. That credit card balance did not disappear quietly. It attracted interest. It competed with the next month's expenses. It created a pressure that had not existed before the boiler broke. And that pressure, that low-level constant financial stress, is exactly what a buffer is designed to prevent. Terrence had been earning well for 4 years, and he was, in a very real sense, one broken boiler away from a spiral at all times. He just never knew it because the boiler had never broken before. This is the invisible fragility that lives inside financial lives with no buffer. Everything looks stable until one ordinary thing goes wrong, and then the ordinary thing becomes expensive, and the expensive thing becomes debt, and the debt becomes pressure. All from the absence of $1,000 sitting quietly somewhere doing nothing, just existing, just being available. The most boring and most powerful financial tool most people never build. Not everyone needed a financial concept to explain this. Some people understood it before anyone gave it a name. Gloria kept an envelope. It was not a savings account. It was not an investment. It was not a system with a name. It was a white envelope in the back of a kitchen drawer, and every month something went into it. Not a large amount, sometimes $20, sometimes $50. Whatever survived the month. Gloria never called it an emergency fund. She called it the just-in-case money. And the just-in-case money was never touched for anything that was not a genuine just-in-case. Not a sale, not a want that felt like a need, not a reasonable upgrade. Just the real emergencies, the ones that arrived without warning and demanded an answer immediately. What Gloria understood, without ever reading a word about behavioral finance, was that the envelope changed how she felt. Not rich, not secure in some large, permanent way, just not afraid. Not afraid of the month, not afraid of what might arrive, because whatever arrived, there was something underneath it. That feeling of not being afraid of the month is what the first $1,000 actually buys. Not safety, not wealth, not a solved financial life. Just enough distance between a person and the next bad week that the bad week does not get to make all the decisions. There is something that happens inside a financial life with no buffer that is almost never talked about. Not the obvious thing. The scrambling, the credit card, the stress. Something quieter than that. When there is no buffer, every financial decision gets made under pressure. The small ones, the daily ones. Whether to buy the slightly cheaper version of something. Whether to say yes to a social event. Whether to fix the thing now or wait and hope. Each of these decisions carries a weight it should not have to carry. And that weight, that constant low-level calculation, is exhausting in a way that compounds quietly over months and years. Research on financial stress shows something striking. The cognitive load of managing scarcity, of constantly calculating, constantly rationing, constantly choosing, actually reduces the mental bandwidth available for other decisions. Not because the person is less intelligent, because the brain is spending so much of its capacity on financial survival that less is available for everything else. This means that the person with no buffer is not just financially fragile. They're making worse decisions across the board, not from weakness, but from depletion. And the solution is not motivation, it's not discipline, it's not trying harder. The solution is removing the pressure, which is exactly what a buffer does. $1,000 does not solve a financial life, but it gives the brain enough room to think clearly. And clear thinking is where better decisions come from. Which is why the first $1,000 saved is not just a financial milestone, it's a cognitive one. Simone and Andre started in the same place, same income bracket, same city,
Same age, same sense that saving was something that happened later, when life settled down a little. The difference appeared on a Tuesday afternoon when Simone read something that stopped her. Not a long book, not a financial course. One sentence. The sentence said, "Save the first $1,000 before you do anything else with money." Not invest, not pay off debt aggressively, not build a full emergency fund. Just the first 1,000. Nothing else until that exists. Simone did something Andre had never done. She gave the saving a name, a specific number, a non-negotiable target. She opened a separate account, not her main account, a different one, and she automated a transfer. $80 a month. Not dramatic, not painful, just $80 disappearing before she could spend it every single month without requiring a decision. 13 months later, the account had $1,040 in it. Simone did not celebrate, she did not tell many people, but something changed in how she moved through the next month. An unexpected bill arrived, a dental expense she had not planned for, and for the first time in her adult financial life, she looked at the bill and felt something other than dread. She felt, and this is the word she used, fine. Fine is not an exciting word, but in a financial context, fine is revolutionary. Fine means the bad thing arrived and the world did not end. Fine means the buffer worked exactly the way a buffer is supposed to. Fine means the next month does not begin in a hole. That feeling, ordinary, undramatic, completely fine, is what Andre had been missing for years without knowing it had a name.
Most people approach saving with the wrong sequence. They wait until there is enough left over at the end of the month, then they save whatever survived the month, which is usually nothing. Because money that is visible gets spent. Not because people are weak, because the brain is designed to use available resources. Seeing a balance and not touching it requires active resistance, and active resistance is exhausting to maintain across hundreds of daily decisions. The sequence that works is the opposite one. Save first, before the spending decisions begin, before the month has a chance to make a claim on the money. Move the saving amount the moment the income arrives, automatically, invisibly, without requiring a choice. This is not a new idea, but the reason it works is newer than most people realize. It works because it removes the decision entirely. A decision that does not happen cannot be made the wrong way. When the saving is automatic, the only decision left is how to spend what remains. And what remains is already a post-saving number, a number the brain can spend without guilt. Simone understood this. Gloria understood it without ever being taught it formally. Andre understood it eventually, but only after years of the wrong sequence had already cost him time he cannot get back. The sequence is not complicated, but it has to be deliberate, because the default sequence, spend first, save what is left, is the one that produces nothing. Every time. Kevin had been listening to all of this and arrived at the practical question, the one most people are actually asking underneath everything else. How does someone build the first $1,000 when there is genuinely very little left at the end of each month? That question deserves a real answer. The first part of the answer is the number itself. $1,000 divided by 12 months is $84 a month. Divided by 26 fortnights, it is $39. Divided by 52 weeks, it is just under $20 a week. Almost everyone reading this has $20 a week somewhere in their spending that is not load-bearing, not essential, not deeply satisfying, just habitual. The second part of the answer is the account. Not the main account, a separate one, ideally at a different bank, ideally without a card attached. The friction of accessing the money should be slightly higher than the friction of leaving it alone. That small structural inconvenience is worth more than the strongest financial resolution. The third part of the answer is the automation. Set the transfer for the day after payday, not the end of the month. The day after payday before the spending begins. Let the month happen on whatever's left. These three things, a specific number, a separate account, An automatic transfer on payday are not a financial strategy. They are a structural decision made once that replaces hundreds of spending decisions that would have otherwise gone the wrong way. That is the entire system. That is all of it. And it is available at almost any income level.
Andre eventually built his first 1,000. It took 14 months from the day he gave the saving a name in a dedicated account. No notification, no ceremony, the number crossed the line quietly on a Wednesday. But the month after that, something broke on his car, and Andre paid for it from the account, and the account dipped. And then Andre refilled it, and then the month after that, he kept going. Terrence rebuilt after the boiler. It took longer than it should have, but he built the buffer this time, specifically because he knew what the absence of it had cost him. Sometimes, the lesson requires the boiler to break. Gloria still has the envelope. She has had it for 30 years. It has been replenished more times than she can count. She has never once thought of it as a strategy. It is just the way she lives. Simone has $4,000 now. She did not change her income to get there. She changed the sequence. The first $1,000 is not a destination. It is a door. On one side of it, every financial surprise is a potential crisis. On the other, the same surprise is just a problem with a solution already sitting quietly nearby. The income does not have to change to walk through that door. The sequence does. If this helped, subscribe, because every week on this channel, another one of these patterns gets examined closely. And next time, we are going to look at what banks actually see when someone applies for a loan and why the number most people think matters barely matters at all.